the one infinite creator. We communicate now. Questioner, I am going to make a statement and ask you to comment on its degree of accuracy. I am assuming that the balanced entity would not be swayed either towards positive or negative emotions by any situation which he might confront. By remaining unemotional in any situation, the balanced entity may clearly discern the appropriate and necessary responses in harmony with the law of one for each situation. Is this correct? I am RA. This is an incorrect application of the balancing which we have discussed. The exercise of first experiencing feelings and then consciously discovering their antitheses within the being has as its objective not the smooth flow of feelings, both positive and negative, while remaining unswayed, but rather the objective of becoming unswayed. This is a simpler result and takes much practice, shall we say. The catalyst of experience works in order for the learn/teachings of this density to occur. However, if there is seen in the being a response, even if it is simply observed, the entity is still using the catalyst for learn/teaching. The end result is that the catalyst is no longer needed. Thus this density is no longer needed. This is not indifference or objectivity, but a finely tuned compassion and love which sees all things as love. This seeing elicits no response due to catalytic reactions. Thus the entity is now able to become co-creator of experiential occurrences. This is the truer balance. Questioner, I will attempt to make an analogy. If an animal, shall I say, a bull, in a pen attacks you because you have wandered into his pen, you get out of his way rapidly, but you do not blame him. You do not have much of an emotional response other than the response that he might damage you. However, if you encounter another self in his territory and he attacks you, your response may be more of an emotional nature, creating physical bodily responses. Am I correct in assuming that when your response to the animal and to the other self is that of seeing both as creator and loving both and understanding their action and attacking you as the action of their free will, then you have balanced yourself correctly in this area? Is this correct? I am RA. This is basically correct. However, the balanced entity will see in the seeming attack of an other self the causes of this action which are, in most cases, of a more complex nature than the cause of the attack of the second density bull, as was your example. Thus this balanced entity would be open to many more opportunities for service to a third density other self. Questioner, would a perfectly balanced entity feel any emotional response in being attacked by the other self? I am RA. This is correct. The response is love. Questioner, in the illusion that we now experience, it is difficult to maintain this response, especially if the attack results in physical pain. But I assume that this response should be maintained even through physical pain or loss of life. Is this correct? I am RA. This is correct and further is of a major or principal importance in understanding, shall we say, the principle of balance. Balance is not indifference, but rather the observer not blinded by any feelings of separation, but rather fully imbued with love. Questioner, in the last session you made the statement that we, that is RA, spent much time/space in the fifth density balancing the intense compassion that we had gained in the fourth density. Could you expand on this concept with respect to the material you just discussed? I am RA. The fourth density, as we have said, abounds in compassion. This compassion is folly when seen through the eyes of wisdom. It is the salvation of third density but creates a mismatch in the ultimate balance of the entity. Thus we, as a social memory complex of fourth density, had the tendency towards compassion even to martyrdom in aid of other selves. When the fifth density harvest was achieved, we found that in this vibratory level flaws could be seen in the efficacy of such unrelieved compassion. We spent much time/space in contemplation of those ways of the Creator which imbue love with wisdom. Questioner, I would like to try to make an analogy for third density of this concept. Many entities here feel great compassion for relieving the physical problems of third density other selves by administering to them in many ways, with food if there is hunger as there is now in the African nations, by bringing them medicine if they feel that there is a need to minister to them medically, and being selfless in all of these services to a very great extent. This is creating a vibration that is in harmony with green ray or fourth density, but it is not balanced with the understanding of fifth density that these entities are experiencing catalysts, and a more balanced administration to their needs would be to provide them with the learning necessary to reach the state of awareness of fourth density than it would be to minister to their physical needs at this time. Is this correct? I am RA. This is incorrect. To a mind/body/spirit complex which is starving, the appropriate response is the feeding of the body. You may extrapolate from this. On the other hand, however, you are correct in your assumption that the green ray response is not as refined as that which has been imbued with wisdom. This wisdom enables the entity to appreciate its contributions to the planetary consciousness by the quality of its being without regard to activity or behavior which expects results upon visible planes. Questioner, then why do we have the extreme starvation problem in, generally, the area of Africa at this time? Is there any metaphysical reason for this, or is it purely random? IMRA. Your previous assumption was correct as to the catalytic action of this starvation and ill health. However, it is within the free will of an entity to respond to this plight of other selves, and the offering of the needed foodstuffs and substances is an appropriate response within the framework of your learn/teachings at this time, which involve the growing sense of love for and service to other selves. Questioner, what is the difference in terms of energy center activation between a person who represses emotional responses to emotionally charged situations and the person who is balanced and, therefore, truly unswayed by emotionally charged situations? IMRA. This query contains an incorrect assumption. To the truly balanced entity, no situation would be emotionally charged. With this understood, we may say the following: the repression of emotions depolarizes the entity insofar as it then chooses not to use the catalytic action of the space/time present in a spontaneous manner, thus dimming the energy centers. There is, however, some polarization towards positive if the cause of this repression is consideration for other selves. The entity which has worked long enough with the catalyst to be able to feel the catalyst but not find it necessary to express reactions is not yet balanced, but suffers no depolarization due to the transparency of its experiential continuum. Thus the gradual increase in the ability to observe one's reaction and to know the self will bring the self ever closer to a true balance. Patience is requested and suggested, for the catalyst is intense upon your plane and its use must be appreciated over a period of consistent learn/teaching. Questioner, how can a person know when he is unswayed by an emotionally charged situation, or if he is repressing the flow of emotions, or if he is in balance and truly unswayed? IMRA. We have spoken to this point. Therefore, we shall briefly iterate that to the balanced entity no situation has an emotional charge, but is simply a situation like any other in which the entity may or may not observe an opportunity to be of service. The closer an entity comes to this attitude, the closer an entity is to balance. You may note that it is not our recommendation that reactions to catalyst be repressed or suppressed unless such reactions would be a stumbling block not consonant with the law of one to another self. It is far, far better to allow the experience to express itself in order that the entity may then make fuller use of this catalyst. Questioner, how can an individual assess what energy centers within its being are activated and in no immediate need of attention, and which energy centers are not activated and are in need of immediate attention? IMRA. The thoughts of an entity, its feelings or emotions, and least of all its behavior, are the signposts for the teaching/learning of self by self. In the analysis of one's experiences of a diurnal cycle, an entity may assess what it considers to be inappropriate thoughts, behaviors, feelings, and emotions. In examining these inappropriate activities of mind, body, and spirit complexes, the entity may then place these distortions in the proper vibrational ray and thus see where work is needed. Questioner, in the last session you said that when the self is conscious to a great enough extent of the workings of the catalyst of fasting and the techniques of programming, it then may through concentration of the will and the faculty of faith alone cause reprogramming without the analogy of fasting, diet, or other analogous bodily complex disciplines. What are the techniques of programming which the higher self uses to ensure that the desired lessons are learned or attempted by the third density self? IMRA. There is but one technique for this growing or nurturing of will and faith, and that is the focusing of the attention. The attention span of those you call children is considered short. The spiritual attention span of most of your peoples is that of the child. Thus it is a matter of wishing to become able to collect one's attention and hold it upon the desired programming. This, when continued, strengthens the will. The entire activity can only occur when there exists faith that an outcome of this discipline is possible. Questioner, can you mention some exercises for helping to increase the attention span? IMRA. Such exercises are common among the many mystical traditions of your entities. The visualization of a shape and color, which is of personal inspirational quality to the meditator, is the heart of what you would call the religious aspects of this sort of visualization. The visualization of simple shapes and colors which have no innate inspirational quality to the entity form the basis for what you may call your magical traditions. Whether you image the rose or the circle is not important. However, it is suggested that one or the other path towards visualization be chosen in order to exercise this faculty. This is due to the careful arrangement of shapes and colors which have been described as visualizations by those steeped in the magical tradition. Questioner, as a youth I was trained in the engineering sciences which include the necessity for three-dimensional visualization for the processes of design. Would this be helpful as a foundation for the type of visualization which you are speaking of, or would it be of no value? RA. To you, the questioner, this experience was valuable. To a less sensitized entity it would not gain the proper increase of concentrative energy. Questioner, then the less sensitized entity should use. What should he use for the proper energy? RA. In the less sensitized individual, the choosing of personally inspirational images is appropriate, whether this inspiration be the rose, which is of perfect beauty, the cross, which is of perfect sacrifice, the Buddha, which is the all-being in one, or whatever else may inspire the individual. Questioner, using the teach/learning relationship of parent to child, what type of actions would demonstrate the activation of the energy centers in sequence from red to violet? RA. This shall be the last full query of this working. The entity, child or adult, as you call it, is not an instrument to be played. The appropriate teach/learning device of parent to child is the open-hearted beingness of the parent and the total acceptance of the beingness of the child. This will encompass whatever material the child entity has brought into the life experience in this plane. There are two things especially important in this relationship other than the basic acceptance of the child by the parent. Firstly, the experience of whatever means the parent uses to worship and give thanksgiving to the one infinite creator should if possible be shared with the child entity upon a daily basis, as you would say. Secondly, the compassion of parent to child may well be tempered by the understanding that the child entity shall learn the biases of service to others or service to self from the parental other self. This is the reason that some discipline is appropriate in the teach/learning. This does not apply to the activation of any one energy center, for each entity is unique and each relationship with self and other self doubly unique. The guidelines given are only general for this reason. Is there a brief query before we leave this instrument? Questioner, is there anything that we can do to make the instrument more comfortable or to improve the contact? RA. The instrument is well. I leave you, my friends, in the love and the light of the infinite Creator. Go forth, then, rejoicing in the power and the peace of the one infinite Creator. Adonai. 94. The Law of One, Book 2, Session 43. March 24, 1981. RA. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. Before we communicate, may we request the adjustment, without the touching of this instrument's physical body complex, of the item which presses upon the instrument's head. This is causing some interference with our contact. Questioner, is that the pillow or something else? Do you speak of the pillow under the neck? RA. There is a line of interference crossing the crown of the head. Questioner, is it this? A 2-inch fold in the sheet is located 3 inches from the crown of the instrument's head and is laid flat on the bed. Is that it? RA. This is correct. Please increase the distance from the crown of the head. Questioner, ruffles in the sheet are smooth all along the length of the sheet next to the instrument's head. Is this satisfactory? RA. Yes. Questioner, I am sorry that we failed to notice that. RA. We communicate now. Questioner, I don't know if it is of any importance, but it occurred to me that the parts removed from the cattle mutilations are the same every time, and I wondered if this is related to the energy centers and why they were important if that was so? RA. This is basically correct if you may understand that there is a link between energy centers and various thought forms. Thus the fears of the mass consciousness create the climate for the concentration upon the removal of bodily parts which symbolize areas of concern or fear in the mass consciousness. Questioner, are you saying then, that these parts that are removed are related to the mass consciousness of the third density human form and that this sphere is being used in some way by the thought form entities in these mutilations? The Law of One, Book 2, Session 43. 95. RA. This is correct. The thought form entities feed upon fear, thus they are able to do precise damage according to systems of symbology. The other second density types of which you speak need the, what you call, blood. Questioner, these other second density types need the blood to remain in the physical? Do they come in and out of our physical from one of the lower astral planes? RA. These entities are, shall we say, creatures of the Orion group. They do not exist in astral planes as do the thought forms, but wait within the Earth's surface. We, as always, remind you that it is our impression that this type of information is unimportant. Questioner, I agree with you wholeheartedly, but I sometimes am at a loss before investigation into an area as to whether it is going to lead to a better understanding. This just seemed to be related somehow to the energy centers which we had been speaking of. I am going to make a statement and have you comment on it for its correctness. The statement is, when the Creator's light is split or divided into colors and energy centers for experience, then in order to reunite with the Creator, the energy centers must be balanced exactly the same as the split light was as it originated from the Creator. Is this correct? RA. To give this query a simple answer would be nearly impossible. We shall simplify by concentrating upon what we consider to be the central idea towards which you are striving. We have, many times now, spoken about the relative importance of balancing as opposed to the relative unimportance of maximal activation of each energy center. The reason is as you have correctly surmised. Thusly the entity is concerned, if it be upon the path of positive harvestability, with the regularizing of the various energies of experience. Thus the most fragile entity may be more balanced than one with extreme energy and activity in service to others due to the fastidiousness with which the will is focused upon the use of experience in knowing the self. The densities beyond your own give the minimally balanced individual much time/space and space/time with which to continue to refine these inner balances. Questioner, in the next density, the fourth density, is the catalyst of physical pain used as a mechanism for experiential balancing? RA. The use of physical pain is minimal, having only to do with the end of the fourth density incarnation. This physical pain would not be. The Law of One, Book 2, Session 43. 96. Considered severe enough to treat, shall we say, in third density. The catalysts of mental and spiritual pain are used in fourth density. Questioner, why is physical pain a part of the end of fourth density? RA. You would call this variety of pain weariness. Questioner, can you state the average lifespan in the fourth density of space/time incarnation? RA. The space/time incarnation typical of harmonious fourth density is approximately 90,000 of your years as you measure time. Questioner, are there multiple incarnations in fourth density with time/space experiences in between incarnations? RA. This is correct. Questioner, how long is a cycle of experience in fourth density in our years? RA. The cycle of experience is approximately 30 million of your years if the entities are not capable of being harvested sooner. There is in this density a harvest which is completely the function of the readiness of the social memory complex. It is not structured as is your own, for it deals with a more transparent distortion of the one infinite creator. Questioner, then the big difference in harvestability between third and fourth density is that at the end of the third density the individual is harvested as a function of individual violet ray, but it is the violet ray for the entire social memory complex that must be of a harvestable nature to graduate to the fifth density. Is this correct? RA. This is correct, although in 5th density entities may choose to learn as a social memory complex or as mind/body/spirit complexes and may graduate to 6th density under these conditions, for the wisdom density is an extremely free density, whereas the lessons of compassion leading to wisdom necessarily have to do with other selves. Questioner, then is 6th density harvest strictly of a social memory complex nature because again we have wisdom and compassion blended back using wisdom? IMRA. This is quite correct. Questioner, the physical vehicle that is used in 4th density space/time is, I am assuming, quite similar to the one that is now used in 3rd density. Is this correct? IMRA. The chemical elements used are not the same. However, the appearance is similar. Questioner, is it necessary to eat food in 4th density? IMRA. This is correct. Questioner, the mechanism of, shall we say, social catalyst due to a necessity for feeding the body then is active in 4th density. Is this correct? IMRA. This is incorrect. The 4th density being desires to serve and the preparation of foodstuffs is extremely simple due to increased communion between entity and living foodstuff. Therefore, this is not a significant catalyst, but rather a simple precondition of the space/time experience. The catalyst involved is the necessity for the ingestion of foodstuffs. This is not considered to be of importance by 4th density entities and it, therefore, aids in the teach/learning of patience. Questioner, could you expand a little bit on how that aids in the teach/learning of patience? IMRA. To stop the functioning of service to others long enough to ingest foodstuffs is to invoke patience. Questioner, I'm guessing that it is not necessary to ingest foodstuffs in 5th density. Is this correct? IMRA. This is incorrect. However, the vehicle needs food which may be prepared by thought. Questioner, what type of food would this be? IMRA. You would call this type of food nectar or ambrosia, or a light broth of golden white hue. Questioner, what is the purpose of ingesting food in 5th density? IMRA. This is a somewhat central point. The purpose of space/time is the increase in catalytic action appropriate to the density. One of the preconditions for space/time existence is some form of body complex. Such a body complex must be fueled in some way. Questioner, in 3rd density the fueling of our bodily complex is not only simply fueling of the bodily complex but gives us opportunities to learn service. In 4th density it not only fuels the complex but gives us opportunities to learn patience. In 5th density it fuels the complex, but does it teach? IMRA. In 5th density it is comfort for those of like mind gathered together to share in this broth, thus becoming one in light and wisdom while joining hearts and hands in physical activity. Thus in this density it becomes a solace rather than a catalyst for learning. Questioner, I am simply trying to trace the evolution of this catalyst that then, as you say, changes in 5th density. I might as well complete this and ask if there is any ingestion of food in 6th density? IMRA. This is correct. However, the nature of this food is that of light and is impossible to describe to you in any meaningful way as regards the thrust of your query. Questioner, on this planet after the harvest is complete, will 4th density beings be incarnate on the surface as we know it now? IMRA. The probability/possibility vortices indicate this to be most likely. Questioner, then will there be at that time any 5th density or 6th density beings on the surface of the planet? IMRA. Not for a fairly long measure of your time, as 4th density beings need to spend their learn/teaching space/time with their own densities entities. Questioner, then basically what you are saying is that at that point the teachings of 5th or 6th density beings would not be too well understood by the new 4th density beings? IMRA. Do you wish to query us upon this point? Questioner, I guess I didn't state that correctly. Would the new 4th density beings then need to evolve in their thinking to reach a point where 5th density lessons would be of value? IMRA. We grasp the thrust of your query. Although it is true that as 4th density beings progress they have more and more need for other density teachings, it is also true that just as we speak to you due to the calling, so the information called is always available. It is simply that 5th density beings will not live upon the surface of the planetary sphere until the planet reaches 5th density vibratory level. Questioner, I was wondering, then, if the mechanism of teach/learning was the same relatively then in fourth density. From what you say, it is necessary first for a call to exist for the teach/learning of fifth density to be given to fourth, just as a call must exist here before fourth density lessons are given to third density. Is this correct? The Law of One, Book 2, Session 43. 99. IMRA. This query is misguided, for experience in fourth density is emphatically not the same as third density experience. However, it is correct that the same mechanism of calling predisposes the information received in a way consonant with free will. You may ask one more full question at this working. Questioner, you stated that the key to strengthening the will is concentration. Can you tell me the relative importance of the following aids to concentration? I have listed silence, temperature control, comfort of body, screening as a Faraday cage would screen electromagnetic radiation, visible light screening, and a constant smell such as the use of incense. In other words, an isolation type of situation. You mentioned that this was one of the functions of the pyramid. IMRA. The analogies of body complex to mind and spirit complex activities have been discussed previously. You may consider all of these aforementioned aids as those helpful to the stimulation of that which in actuality aids concentration, that being the will of the entity. This free will may be focused at any object or goal. Questioner, I was really trying to get at whether it would be of great importance to construct a better place for our meditations. We have distractions here of the types which I mentioned, and I know that it is a function of our total free will as to whether we construct this or not, but I was trying to get at the principles behind and the relative importance of the Faraday cage. It would be quite a construction, and I was wondering if it would be of any real value? IMRA. Without infringing upon free will, we feel it possible to state that the Faraday cage and the isolation tank are gadgets. The surrounding of self in a sylvan atmosphere, apart from distractions, in a place of working used for no other purpose, in which you and your associates agree to lay aside all goals but that of the meditative seeking of the infinite creator is, shall we say, not gadgetry but the making use of the creation of the Father in second density love, and in the love and support of other selves. Are there any brief queries before this working is at an end? Questioner, is there anything that we can do to make the instrument more comfortable or to improve the contact? IMRA. All is well. I leave you in the love and the light of the one infinite creator. Go forth, therefore, rejoicing in the power and the peace of the one infinite creator. Adonai. The Law of One, Book 2, Session 43. Session number 44, March 28, 1981, and session number 45, April 6, 1981, contain only personal material and were, for that reason, removed from the Law of One, Book 2. The Law of One, Book 2, Session 46. April 15, 1981. IMRA. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. We communicate now. Questioner, if an entity polarizes toward the service to self path, would anger have the same physical effect that it would have on the entity polarizing on the service to others path? Would it also cause cancer, or is it just a catalytic effect working in the positively polarizing entity? IMRA. The catalytic mechanisms are dependent, not upon the chosen polarity of a mind/body/spirit complex, but upon the use or purpose to which this catalyst is put. Thus the entity which uses the experience of anger to polarize consciously positively or negatively does not experience the bodily catalyst, but rather uses the catalyst in mental configuration. Questioner, I am not sure that I understand that. Let's take some examples. An entity polarizing toward the negative path becomes angry. Let's take the condition where he develops a cancer. What is the principle that is at work for him? IMRA. We see the thrust of your query and will respond at variance with the specific query if that meets with your approval. Questioner, certainly. The entity polarizing positively perceives the anger. This entity, if using this catalyst mentally, blesses and loves this anger in itself. It then intensifies this anger consciously in mind alone until the folly of this red ray energy is perceived not as folly in itself but as energy subject to spiritual entropy due to the randomness of energy being used. Positive orientation then provides the will and faith to continue this mentally intense experience of letting the anger be understood, accepted, and integrated with the mind/body/spirit complex. The other self, which is the object of anger, is thus transformed into an object of acceptance, understanding, and accommodation, all being reintegrated using the great energy which anger began. The negatively oriented mind/body/spirit complex will use this anger in a similarly conscious fashion, refusing to accept the undirected or random energy of anger and instead, through will and faith, funneling this energy into a practical means of venting the negative aspect of this emotion so as to obtain control over other self, or otherwise control the situation causing anger. Control is the key to negatively polarized use of catalyst. Acceptance is the key to positively polarized use of catalyst. Between these polarities lies the potential for this random and undirected energy creating a bodily complex analog of what you call the cancerous growth of tissue. Questioner, then as I understand it, you are saying that if the positively polarizing entity fails to accept the other self, or if the negatively polarizing entity fails to control the other self, either of these conditions will cause cancer, possibly. Is this correct? I am RA. This is partially correct. The first acceptance, or control, depending upon polarity, is of the self. Anger is one of many things to be accepted and loved as a part of self or controlled as a part of self, if the entity is to do work. Questioner, then are you saying that if a negatively polarizing entity is unable to control his own anger or unable to control himself in anger, that he may cause cancer? Is this correct? I am RA. This is quite correct. The negative polarization contains a great requirement for control and repression. Questioner, a repression of what? I am RA. Any mind complex distortion which you may call emotional, which is of itself disorganized, needs, in order to be useful to the negatively oriented entity, to be repressed and then brought to the surface in an organized use. Thus you may find, for instance, negatively polarized entities controlling and repressing such basic bodily complex needs as the sexual desire, in order that in the practice thereof the will may be used to enforce itself upon the other self with greater efficiency when the sexual behavior is allowed. Questioner, then the positively oriented entity, rather than attempting repression of emotion, would balance the emotion as stated in an earlier contact. Is this correct? I am RA. This is correct and illustrates the path of unity. Questioner, then cancer is a training catalyst operating for both polarities in approximately the same way, but creating or attempting to create polarization in both directions, positive and negative, depending upon the orientation of the entity experiencing the catalyst. Is this correct? The Law of One, Book 2, Session 46. 103. I am RA. This is incorrect in that catalyst is unconscious and does not work with intelligence, but rather is part of the, shall we say, mechanism of learn/teaching set up by the sublogos before the beginning of your space/time. Questioner, how does cancer do this learn/teaching when the entity developing cancer has no conscious idea of what is happening to him when he develops cancer? I am RA. In many cases catalyst is not used. Questioner, what is the plan for use of the catalyst of cancer? I am RA. The catalyst, and all catalyst, is designed to offer experience. This experience in your density may be loved and accepted, or it may be controlled. These are the two paths. When neither path is chosen, the catalyst fails in its design and the entity proceeds until catalyst strikes it, which causes it to form a bias towards acceptance and love, or separation and control. There is no lack of space/time in which this catalyst may work. Questioner, I am assuming that the plan of the logos is for positively and negatively polarized social memory complexes in fourth density and above. Can you tell me the purpose of the plan for these two types of social memory complexes with respect to Coulomb's law, or negative and positive electrical polarity, or in any way that you can? I am RA. This instrument grows weary. We shall speak with you again. We may indicate the possibility, without further harm to this instrument, of approximately 2 sessions per year weekly period until these weeks of potential for attack and presence of very low physical energy are past. May we say it is good to be with this group. We appreciate your fidelity. Are there any brief queries before the end of this work time? Questioner, only is there anything that we can do to make the instrument more comfortable or to improve the contact? I am RA. Each is supporting the instrument well, and the instrument remains steady in its purpose. You are conscientious. All is well. We ward you ware of any laxity regarding the arrangement and orientation of appurtenances. IMRA. I leave you, my friends, in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. Go forth, therefore, rejoicing in the power and the peace of the one infinite Creator. Adonai. 104. The Law of One, Book 2, Session 47. April 18, 1981. IMRA. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. We communicate now. Questioner, could you first give us an indication of the condition of the instrument? IMRA. It is as previously stated. Questioner, the question that I was trying to ask at the end of the last session was, of what value to evolution or experience with respect to the Creator knowing itself are the positive and negative social memory complexes that form starting in fourth density, and why was this planned by the logos? IMRA. There are inherent incorrectness in your query. However, we may answer the main point of it. The incorrectness lies in the consideration that social memory complexes were planned by the logos or sub-logos. This is incorrect, as the unity of the Creator exists within the smallest portion of any material created by love, much less in a self-aware being. However, the distortion of free will causes the social memory complex to appear as a possibility at a certain stage of evolution of mind. The purpose, or consideration which causes entities to form such complexes, of these social memory complexes, is a very simple extension of the basic distortion towards the Creator's knowing of itself, for when a group of mind/body/spirits becomes able to form a social memory complex, all experience of each entity is available to the whole of the complex. Thus the Creator knows more of its creation in each entity, partaking of this communion of entities. Questioner, you gave the values of better than 50% service to others for fourth density positive and better than 95% service to self for fourth density negative social memory complexes. Do these two values correspond to the same rate, shall I say, of vibration? IMRA. I perceive you have difficulty in expressing your query. We shall respond in an attempt to clarify your query. The vibratory rates are not to be understood as the same in positive and negative orientations. They are to be understood as having the power to accept and work with intelligent infinity to a certain degree or intensity. The Law of One, Book 2, Session 47. 105. Due to the fact that the primary color, shall we say, or energy blue is missing from the negatively oriented system of power, the green/blue vibratory energies are not seen in the vibratory schedules or patterns of negative fourth and fifth rates of vibration. The positive, on the other hand, shall we say, has the full spectrum of true color time/space vibratory patterns and thus contains a variant vibratory pattern or schedule. Each is capable of doing fourth density work. This is the criterion for harvest. Questioner, did you say that blue was missing from fourth density negative? IMRA. Let us clarify further. As we have previously stated, all beings have the potential for all possible vibratory rates. Thus the potential of the green and blue energy center activation is, of course, precisely where it must be in a creation of love. However, the negatively polarized entity will have achieved harvest due to extremely efficient use of red and yellow/orange, moving directly to the gateway indigo, bringing through this intelligent energy channel the in-streamings of intelligent infinity. Questioner, then at fourth density graduation into fifth, is there anything like that which you gave as the percentages necessary for third density graduation into fourth in polarization? IMRA. There are, in your modes of thinking, responses we can make, which we shall make. However, the important point is that the graduations from density to density do occur. The positive/negative polarity is a thing which will, at the sixth level, simply become history. Therefore, we speak in an illusory time continuum when we discuss statistics of positive versus negative harvest into fifth. A large percentage of fourth density negative entities continue the negative path from fourth to fifth density experience, for without wisdom the compassion and desire to aid other self is not extremely well informed. Thus, though one loses approximately 2% moving from negative to positive during the fourth density experience, we find approximately 8% of graduations into fifth density, those of the negative. Questioner: what I was actually asking was if 50% is required for graduation from third to fourth in the positive sense and 95% was required for graduation in the negative sense. Does this have to more closely approach 100% for graduation in both cases for graduation from fourth to fifth density? Does an entity have to be 99% polarized for negative and maybe 80% polarized positive for graduation? RA. We perceive the query now. The Law of One, Book 2, Session 47. 106. To give this in your terms is misleading, for there are, shall we say, visual aids or training aids available in fourth density which automatically aid the entity in polarization while cutting down extremely upon the quick effective catalyst. Thus the density above yours must take up more space/time. The percentage of service to others of positively oriented entities will harmoniously approach 98% in intention. The qualifications for fifth density, however, involve understanding. This then becomes the primary qualification for graduation from fourth to fifth density. To achieve this graduation, the entity must be able to understand the actions, the movements, and the dance. There is no percentage describable which measures this understanding. It is a measure of efficiency of perception. It may be measured by light. The ability to love, accept, and use a certain intensity of light thus creates the requirement for both positive and negative fourth to fifth harvesting. Questioner: can you define what you mean by a crystallized entity? RA. We have used this particular term because it has a fairly precise meaning in your language. When a crystalline structure is formed of your physical material, the elements present in each molecule are bonded in a regularized fashion with elements in each other molecule. Thus the structure is regular and, when fully and perfectly crystallized, has certain properties. It will not splinter or break, it is very strong without effort, and it is radiant, producing light into a beautiful refraction giving pleasure of the eye to many. Questioner: in our esoteric literature numerous bodies are listed. I have listed here the physical body, the etheric, the emotional, the astral. Can you tell me if this listing is the proper number, and can you tell me the uses and purposes and effects etc. of each of these and any other bodies that may be in our mind/body/spirit complex? RA. To answer your query fully would be the work of many sessions such as this one, for the interrelationships of the various bodies and each body's effects in various situations is an enormous study. However, we shall begin by referring your minds back to the spectrum of true colors and the usage of this understanding in grasping the various densities of your octave. We have the number 7 repeated from the macrocosm to the microcosm in structure and experience. Therefore, it would only be expected that there would be 7 basic bodies which we would perhaps be most lucid by stating as red ray body, etc. However, we are aware that you wish to correspond these bodies mentioned with the color rays. This will be confusing, for various teachers have offered their teach/learning understanding in various terms. Thus one may name a subtle body one thing and another find a different name. The red ray body is your chemical body. However, it is not the body which you have as clothing in the physical. It is the unconstructed material of the body, the elemental body without form. This basic unformed material body is important to understand, for there are healings which may be carried out by the simple understanding of the elements present in the physical vehicle. The orange ray body is the physical body complex. This body complex is still not the body you inhabit, but rather the body formed without self-awareness, the body in the womb before the spirit/mind complex enters. This body may live without the inhabitation of the mind and spirit complexes. However, it seldom does so. The yellow ray body is your physical vehicle which you know of at this time and in which you experience catalyst. This body has the mind/body/spirit characteristics and is equal to the physical illusion, as you have called it. The green ray body is that body which may be seen in seance when what you call ectoplasm is furnished. This is a lighter body packed more densely with life. You may call this the astral body, following some other teachings. Others have called this same body the etheric body. However, this is not correct in the sense that the etheric body is that body of gateway wherein intelligent energy is able to mold the mind/body/spirit complex. The light body or blue-ray body may be called the devachanic body. There are many other names for this body, especially in your so-called Indian sutras or writings, for there are those among these peoples which have explored these regions and understand the various types of devachanic bodies. There are many, many types of bodies in each density, much like your own. The indigo ray body, which we choose to call the etheric body, is, as we have said, the gateway body. In this body form is substance, and you may only see this body as that of light, as it may mold itself as it desires. The violet ray body may perhaps be understood as what you might call the Buddha body, or that body which is complete. Each of these bodies has an effect upon your mind/body/spirit complex in your life beingness. The interrelationships, as we have said, are many and complex. Perhaps one suggestion that may be indicated is this: the indigo ray body may be used by the healer once the healer becomes able to place its consciousness in this etheric state. The violet ray or Buddhic body is of equal efficacy to the healer, for within it lies a sense of wholeness which is extremely close to unity with all that there is. These bodies are part of each entity, and the proper use of them and understanding of them is, though far advanced from the standpoint of third density harvest, nevertheless useful to the adept. Questioner: which bodies do we have immediately after physical death from this yellow ray body that I now am in? RA, I am RA. You have all bodies in potentiation. Questioner: then the yellow ray body in potentiation is used to create this chemical arrangement that I have as a physical body now. Is this correct? RA, I am RA. This is incorrect only in that in your present incarnation the yellow ray body is not in potentiation but in activation, it being that body which is manifest. Questioner: then after death from this incarnation we still have the yellow ray body in potentiation, but then in the general case of our planetary population after death, would they then normally have the green ray body manifested? RA, I am RA. Not immediately. The first body which activates itself upon death is the form maker or the indigo ray body. This body remains, you have called it the Ka, until etheria has been penetrated and understanding has been gained by the mind/body/spirit totality. Once this is achieved, if the proper body to be activated is green ray, then this will occur. Questioner: let me make a statement and you tell me if I am correct. After death then, if an entity is unaware, he may become what is called an earthbound spirit until he is able to achieve the required awareness for activation of one of his bodies. Would it be possible then to activate any of the bodies from red through violet? RA, I am RA. Given the proper stimulus, this is correct. Questioner: what stimulus would create what we call an earthbound spirit or a lingering ghost? RA, I am RA. The stimulus for this is the faculty of the will. If the will of yellow ray mind/body/spirit is that which is stronger than the progressive impetus of the physical death towards realization of that which comes, that is, if the will is concentrated enough upon the previous experience, the entity's shell of yellow ray, though no longer activated, cannot either be completely deactivated and, until the will is released, the mind/body/spirit complex is caught. This often occurs, as we see you are aware, in the case of sudden death as well as in the case of extreme concern for a thing or another self. Questioner: well then, does orange ray activation after death occur very frequently with this planet? RA, I am RA quite infrequently, due to the fact that this particular manifestation is without will. Occasionally an other self will so demand the form of the one passing through the physical death that some semblance of the being will remain. This is orange ray. This is rare, for normally if one entity desires another enough to call it, the entity will have the corresponding desire to be called. Thus the manifestation would be the shell of yellow ray. Questioner: what does the large percentage of the Earth's population, as they pass through the physical, activate? RA, I am RA. This shall be the last full query of this working. The normal procedure, given in harmonious passage from yellow ray bodily manifestation, is for the mind and spirit complex to rest in the etheric or indigo body until such time as the entity begins its preparation for experience in an incarnated place which has a manifestation formed by the etheric energy molding it into activation and manifestation. This indigo body, being intelligent energy, is able to offer the newly dead, as you would term it, soul a perspective and a place from which to view the experience most recently manifested. Is there a short query we may answer at this time? Questioner, I will only ask if there is anything that we may do to make the instrument more comfortable or to improve the contact? RA, IMRA. The appurtenances are conscientiously measured by eye and spirit. You are conscientious. All is well. Observe this instrument to ensure continued building of the vital energies. It will have to work upon its own physical energies, for this weakness was brought about by free will of the self. IMRA. We leave you now in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. Go forth, therefore, rejoicing in the power and in the peace of the one infinite Creator. Adonai. The Law of One, Book 2, Session 48. April 22, 1981. RA, IMRA. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. We communicate now. Questioner, could you tell us of the instrument's condition and if she is improving with time? RA, IMRA. This instrument's vital energies are improving with time as you measure it. This instrument's physical energies are less than your previous asking. Questioner, thank you. If you, RA, as an individualized entity were incarnate on Earth now with full awareness and memory of what you know now, what would be your objective at this time on Earth as far as activities are concerned? RA, IMRA. The query suggests that which has been learned to be impractical. However, were we to again be naive enough to think that our physical presence was any more effective than that love/light we send your peoples and the treasure of this contact, we would do as we did do. We would be, and we would offer ourselves as teach/learners. Questioner, my lecture yesterday was attended by only a few. If this had occurred during a UFO flap, many more would have attended. Since Orion entities cause the flaps, what is Orion's reward for visibility in that they actually create greater opportunities for the dissemination of information such as this information at those times? RA, IMRA. This assumption is incorrect. The flaps cause many fears among your peoples, many speakings, understandings concerning plots, cover-ups, mutilations, killings, and other negative impressions. Even those supposedly positive reports which gain public awareness speak of doom. You may understand yourself as one who will be in the minority due to the understandings which you wish to share, if we may use that misnomer. We perceive there is a further point we may posit at this time. The audience brought about by Orion-type publicity is not seated by seniority of vibration to a great extent. The audiences receiving teach/learnings without stimulus from publicity will be more greatly oriented towards illumination. Therefore, forget you the counting. The Law of One, Book 2, Session 48. 111. Questioner, thank you. That clears up that point very well. Can you tell me how positive and negative polarizations in fourth and fifth density are used to cause working in consciousness? RA, IMRA. There is very little work in consciousness in fourth and in fifth densities compared to the work done in third density. The work that is accomplished in positive fourth is that work whereby the positive social memory complex, having, through slow stages, harmoniously integrated itself, goes forth to aid those of less positive orientation which seek their aid. Thus their service is their work, and through this dynamic between the societal self and the other self, which is the object of love, greater and greater intensities of understanding or compassion are attained. This intensity continues until the appropriate intensity of the light may be welcomed. This is fourth density harvest. Within fourth density positive, there are minor amounts of catalyst of a spiritual and mental complex distortion. This occurs during the process of harmonizing to the extent of forming the social memory complex. This causes some small catalyst and work to occur, but the great work of fourth density lies in the contact betwixt the societal self and less polarized other self. In fourth density negative, much work is accomplished during the fighting for position which precedes the period of the social memory complex. There are opportunities to polarize negatively by control of other selves. During the social memory complex period of fourth density negative, the situation is the same. The work takes place through the societal reaching out to less polarized other self in order to aid in negative polarization. In fifth density positive and negative, the concept of work done through a potential difference is not particularly helpful, as fifth density entities are, again, intensifying rather than potentiating. In positive, the fifth density complex uses sixth density teach/learners to study the more illuminated understandings of unity, thus becoming more and more wise. Fifth density positive social memory complexes will choose to divide their service to others in two ways. First, the beaming of light to creation. Second, the sending of groups to be of aid as instruments of light, such as those whom you are familiar with through channels. In fifth density negative, service to self has become extremely intense and the self has shrunk or compacted so that the dialogues with the teach/learners are used exclusively in order to intensify wisdom. There are very, very few fifth density negative wanderers, for they fear the forgetting. The Law of One, Book 2, Session 48. 112. There are very, very few fifth density Orion members, for they do not any longer perceive any virtue in other selves. Questioner, thank you. I would like to take as an example an entity, starting before birth, who is roughly high on the seniority list for positive polarization and possible harvestability at the end of this cycle, and follow a full cycle of his experience starting before his incarnation, which body is activated, the process of becoming incarnate, the activation of the third density physical body, the process as the body moves through this density and is acted upon by catalysts, the process of death, and the activation of the various bodies, so that we make a full circuit from a point prior to incarnation back around through incarnation and death. You might say one cycle of incarnation in this density. Could you do that for me? IMRA. Your query is most distorted, for it assumes that creations are alike. Each mind/body/spirit complex has its own patterns of activation and its own rhythms of awakening. The important thing for harvest is the harmonious balance between the various energy centers of the mind/body/spirit complex. This is to be noted as of relative import. We grasp the thrust of your query and will make a most general answer, stressing the unimportance of such arbitrary generalizations. The entity, before incarnation, dwells in the appropriate, shall we say, place in time/space. The true color type of this location will be dependent upon the entity's needs. Those entities, for instance, which, being wanderers, have the green, blue, or indigo true color core of mind/body/spirit complex, will have rested therein. Entrance into incarnation requires the investment or activation of the indigo ray or etheric body, for this is the form maker. The young or small physical mind/body/spirit complex has the 7 energy centers potentiated before the birthing process. There are also analogs in time/space of these energy centers corresponding to the 7 energy centers in each of the 7 true color densities. Thus in the microcosm exists all the experience that is prepared. It is as though the infant contains the universe. The patterns of activation of an entity of high seniority will undoubtedly move with some rapidity to the green ray level, which is the springboard to primary blue. There is always some difficulty in penetrating blue primary energy, for it requires that which your people have in great paucity, that is, honesty. Blue ray is the ray of free communication with self and with other self. Having accepted that an harvestable or nearly harvestable entity will be working from this green ray springboard, one may then posit that the experiences in the remainder of the incarnation will be focused upon activation of the primary blue ray of freely given communication, of indigo. The Law of One, Book 2, Session 48. 113. Ray, that the freely shared intelligent energy, and if possible, moving through this gateway, the penetration of violet ray intelligent infinity. This may be seen to be manifested by a sense of the consecrate or hallowed nature of everyday creations and activities. Upon the bodily complex death, as you call this transition, the entity will immediately, upon realization of its state, return to the indigo formmaker body and rest therein until the proper future placement is made. Here we have the anomaly of harvest. In harvest, the entity will then transfer its indigo body into violet ray manifestation as seen in true color yellow. This is for the purpose of gauging the harvestability of the entity. After this anomalous activity has been carefully completed, the entity will move into indigo body again and be placed in the correct true color locus in space/time and time/space, at which time the healings and learn/teachings necessary shall be completed and further incarnation needs determined. Questioner, who supervises the determination of further incarnation needs and sets up the seniority list for incarnation? IMRA. This is a query with two answers. Firstly, there are those directly under the guardians who are responsible for the incarnation patterns of those incarnating automatically, that is, without conscious self-awareness of the process of spiritual evolution. You may call these beings angelic if you prefer. They are, shall we say, local or of your planetary sphere. The seniority of vibration is to be likened unto placing various grades of liquids in the same glass. Some will rise to the top, others will sink to the bottom. Layers and layers of entities will ensue. As harvest draws near, those filled with the most light and love will naturally, and without supervision, be in line, shall we say, for the experience of incarnation. When the entity becomes aware in its mind/body/spirit complex totality of the mechanism for spiritual evolution, it, itself, will arrange and place those lessons and entities necessary for maximum growth and expression of polarity in the incarnative experience before the forgetting process occurs. The only disadvantage of this total free will of those senior entities choosing the manner of incarnation experiences is that some entities attempt to learn so much during one incarnative experience that the intensity of catalyst disarranges the polarized entity and the experience thus is not maximally useful as intended. The Law of One, Book 2, Session 48. 114. Questioner, an analogy to that would be a student in college signing up for more courses than he could possibly assimilate in the time they were given. Is this correct? RA, I am RA. This is correct. Questioner, could you tell me how the various bodies, red through violet, are linked to the energy centers, red through violet? Are they linked in some way? RA, I am RA. This shall be the last full query of this working. As we have noted, each of the true color densities has the 7 energy centers and each entity contains all this in potentiation. The activation, while in yellow ray, of violet ray intelligent infinity is a passport to the next octave of experience. There are adepts who have penetrated many of the energy centers and several of the true colors. This must be done with utmost care while in the physical body, for as we noted when speaking of the dangers of linking red/orange/yellow circuitry with true color blue circuitry, the potential for disarrangement of the mind/body/spirit complex is great. However, the entity who penetrates intelligent infinity is basically capable of walking the universe with unfettered tread. Is there any brief query before we leave this instrument? Questioner, just if there is anything that we can do to make the instrument more comfortable or to improve the contact? RA, I am RA. All is well. As we have said, this instrument is weak physically and continued work times will lengthen this weakness. The continued contact also aids in the continued climb in vital energy of the instrument as well as the integration and vital energy of the group as an unit. The choice is yours. We are pleased. All is well. You are conscientious. Continue so. I am RA. I leave you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. Go forth, then, my friends, rejoicing in the power and in the peace of the one infinite Creator. Adonai. 115. The Law of One, Book 2, Session 49. April 27, 1981. RA, I am RA. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. We communicate now. Questioner, would you please give us a reading on the instrument's condition? RA, I am RA. It is as previously stated. Questioner, I was wondering, in a previous session you had mentioned the left and right ear tones, the left and the right brain somehow being related to the polarities of service to self and service to others. Could you comment on this? RA, I am RA. We may comment on this. Questioner, will you go ahead and comment on this? RA, I am RA. The lobes of your physical complex brain are alike in their use of weak electrical energy. The entity ruled by intuition and impulse is equal to the entity governed by rational analysis when polarity is considered. The lobes may both be used for service to self or service to others. It may seem that the rational or analytical mind might have more of a possibility of successfully pursuing the negative orientation due to the fact that in our understanding too much order is by its essence negative. However, this same ability to structure abstract concepts and to analyze experiential data may be the key to rapid positive polarization. It may be said that those whose analytical capacities are predominant have somewhat more to work with in polarizing. The function of intuition is to inform intelligence. In your illusion, the unbridled predominance of intuition will tend to keep an entity from the greater polarizations due to the vagaries of intuitive perception. As you may see, these two types of brain structure need to be balanced in order that the net sum of experiential catalyst will be polarization and illumination. For without the acceptance by the rational mind of the worth of the intuitive faculty, the creative aspects which aid in illumination will be stifled. There is one correspondence between right and left and positive and negative. The web of energy which surrounds your bodies contains somewhat complex polarizations. The left area of the head and upper shoulder is most generally seen to be of a negative polarization, whereas the Law of One, Book 2, Session 49, 116. Right is of positive polarization, magnetically speaking. This is the cause of the tone's meaning for you. Questioner, will you expand on the positive and negative polarizations in general and how they apply to individuals and planets, etc.? I think there is a correlation here, but I'm not sure. RA. It is correct that there is a correlation between the energy field of an entity of your nature and planetary bodies, for all material is constructed by means of the dynamic tension of the magnetic field. The lines of force in both cases may be seen to be much like the interweaving spirals of the braided hair. Thus positive and negative wind and interweave, forming geometric relationships in the energy fields of both persons, as you would call a mind/body/spirit complex, and planets. The negative pole is the south pole or the lower pole. The north or upper pole is positive. The crisscrossing of these spiraling energies form primary, secondary, and tertiary energy centers. You are familiar with the primary energy centers of the physical, mental, and spiritual body complex. Secondary points of the crisscrossing of positive and negative center orientation revolve about several of your centers. The yellow ray center may be seen to have secondary energy centers in elbow, in knee, and in the subtle bodies at a slight spacing from the physical vehicle at points describing diamonds about the entity's navel area surrounding the body. One may examine each of the energy centers for such secondary centers. Some of your peoples work with these energy centers, and you call this acupuncture. However, it is to be noted that there are most often anomalies in the placement of the energy centers, so that the scientific precision of this practice is brought into question. Like most scientific attempts at precision, it fails to take into account the unique qualities of each creation. The most important concept to grasp about the energy field is that the lower or negative pole will draw the universal energy into itself from the cosmos. Therefrom it will move upward to be met and reacted to by the positive spiraling energy moving downward from within. The measure of an entity's level of ray activity is the locus wherein the south pole outer energy has been met by the inner spiraling positive energy. As an entity grows more polarized, this locus will move upwards. This phenomenon has been called by your peoples the Kundalini. However, it may better be thought of as the meeting place of cosmic and inner, shall we say, vibratory understanding. To attempt to raise the locus of this meeting without realizing the metaphysical principles of magnetism upon which this depends is to invite great imbalance. The Law of One, Book 2, Session 49. 117. Questioner, what process would be the recommended process for correctly awakening the Kundalini, and of what value would that be? RA. The metaphor of the coiled serpent being called upwards is vastly appropriate for consideration by your peoples. This is what you are attempting when you seek. There are, as we have stated, great misapprehensions concerning this metaphor and the nature of pursuing its goal. We must generalize and ask that you grasp the fact that this in effect renders far less useful that which we share. However, as each entity is unique, generalities are our lot when communicating for your possible edification. We have two types of energy. We are attempting then, as entities in any true color of this octave, to move the meeting place of inner and outer natures further and further along or upward along the energy centers. The two methods of approaching this with sensible method are first, the seating within oneself of those experiences which are attracted to the entity through the South Pole. Each experience will need to be observed, experienced, balanced, accepted, and seated within the individual. As the entity grows in self-acceptance and awareness of catalyst, the location of the comfortable seating of these experiences will rise to the new true color entity. The experience, whatever it may be, will be seated in red ray and considered as to its survival content and so forth. Each experience will be sequentially understood by the growing and seeking mind/body/spirit complex in terms of survival, then in terms of personal identity, then in terms of social relations, then in terms of universal love, then in terms of how the experience may beget free communication, then in terms of how the experience may be linked to universal energies, and finally in terms of the sacramental nature of each experience. Meanwhile, the Creator lies within. In the North Pole, the crown is already upon the head, and the entity is potentially a god. This energy is brought into being by the humble and trusting acceptance of this energy through meditation and contemplation of the self and of the Creator. Where these energies meet is where the serpent will have achieved its height. When this uncoiled energy approaches universal love and radiant being, the entity is in a state whereby the harvestability of the entity comes nigh. Questioner, will you recommend a technique of meditation? RA, I am RA, no. Questioner, is it better, or shall I say, does it produce more usable results in meditation to leave the mind as blank as possible and let it run down? So, The Law of One, Book 2, Session 49, 118. To speak, or is it better to focus in meditation on some object or something for concentration? RA, I am RA. This shall be the last full query of this work time. Each of the two types of meditation is useful for a particular reason. The passive meditation involving the clearing of the mind, the emptying of the mental jumble which is characteristic of mind complex activity among your peoples, is efficacious for those whose goal is to achieve an inner silence as a base from which to listen to the Creator. This is an useful and helpful tool and is by far the most generally useful type of meditation as opposed to contemplation or prayer. The type of meditation which may be called visualization has as its goal not that which is contained in the meditation itself. Visualization is the tool of the adept. Those who learn to hold visual images in mind are developing an inner concentrative power that can transcend boredom and discomfort. When this ability has become crystallized in an adept, the adept may then do polarizing in consciousness without external action which can affect the planetary consciousness. This is the reason for the existence of the so-called white magician. Only those wishing to pursue the conscious raising of planetary vibration will find visualization to be a particularly satisfying type of meditation. Contemplation, or the consideration in a meditative state of an inspiring image or text, is extremely useful also among your peoples, and the faculty of, we'll call, praying is also of a potentially helpful nature. Whether it is indeed an helpful activity depends quite totally upon the intentions and objects of the one who prays. May we ask if there are any brief queries at this time? Questioner, I will just ask if there is anything that we may do to make the instrument more comfortable or to improve the contact, and if the 2 periods per week are still appropriate? RA, I am RA. We request your care in the placement of the neck support for this entity, as it is too often careless. You are conscientious and your alignments are well. The timing, if we may use that expression, of the sessions is basically correct. However, you are to be commended for observing fatigue in the circle and refraining from working until all were in love, harmony, and vital energy as one being. This is, and will continue to be, most helpful. The Law of One, Book 2, Session 49. 119. I am RA. I leave you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. Go forth, therefore, rejoicing in the power and in the peace of the one infinite Creator. Adonai. 120. The Law of One, Book 2, Session 50. May 6, 1981. RA, I am RA. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. We communicate now. Questioner, could you please give me an indication of the instrument's condition now? RA, I am RA. It is as previously stated. Questioner, in the last session you made the statement that experiences are attracted into the entity through the South Pole. Could you expand on that and give us a definition of what you mean? RA, I am RA. It takes some consideration to accomplish the proper perspective for grasping the sense of the above information. The south or negative pole is one which attracts. It pulls unto itself those things magnetized to it. So with the mind/body/spirit complex, the inflow of experience is of the South Pole influx. You may consider this a simplistic statement. The only specific part of this correctness is that the red ray or foundation energy center, being the lowest or root energy center of the physical vehicle, will have the first opportunity to react to any experience. In this way only, you may see a physical locus of the South Pole being identified with the root energy center. In every facet of mind and body, the root or foundation will be given the opportunity to function first. What is this opportunity but survival? This is the root possibility of response and may be found to be characteristic of the basic functions of both mind and body. You will find this instinct the strongest, and once this is balanced, much is open to the seeker. The South Pole then ceases blocking the experiential data, and higher energy centers of mind and body become availed of the opportunity to use the experience drawn to it. Questioner: why do you say the experience is drawn to or attracted to the entity? IMRA. We say this due to our understanding that this is the nature of the phenomenon of experiential catalyst and its entry into the mind/body/spirit complex's awareness. Questioner: could you give an example of how an entity sets up a condition for attracting a particular experiential catalyst and how that catalyst then is provided or is learned? The Law of One, Book 2, Session 50. 121. IMRA. Such an example may be given. Questioner: will you give that? IMRA. We pause to scan names consciousness to use its experiential catalyst as example. We may proceed. This is one instance, and extrapolation may be made to other entities which are aware of the process of evolution. This entity chose, before incarnation, the means whereby catalyst had great probability of being obtained. This entity desired the process of expressing love and light without expecting any return. This entity programmed also to endeavor to accomplish spiritual work and to comfort itself with companionship in the doing of this work. Agreements were made prior to incarnation, the first, with the so-called parents and siblings of this entity. This provided the experiential catalyst for the situation of offering radiance of being without expectation of return. The second program involved agreements with several entities. These agreements provided and will provide, in your time/space and space/time continuum, opportunities for the experiential catalyst of work and comradeship. There are events which were part of a program for this entity only in that they were possibility/probability vortices having to do with your societal culture. These events include the nature of the living or standard of living, the type of relationships entered into in your legal framework, and the social climate during the incarnation. The incarnation was understood to be one which would take place at harvest. These givens, shall we say, apply to millions of your peoples. Those aware of evolution and desirous in the very extreme of attaining the heart of love and the radiance which gives understanding. No matter what the lessons programmed, they have to do with other selves, not with events. They have to do with giving, not receiving. For the lessons of love are of this nature, both for positive and negative. Those negatively harvestable will be found at this time endeavoring to share their love of self. There are those whose lessons are more random due to their present inability to comprehend the nature and mechanism of the evolution of mind, body, and spirit. Of these we may say that the process is guarded by those who never cease their watchful expectation of being of service. There is no entity without help, either through self-awareness of the unity of creation or through guardians of the self which protect the less sophisticated mind/body/spirit from any permanent separation from unity while the lessons of your density continue. The Law of One, Book 2, Session 50. 122. Questioner: could you give an example of negative polarization sharing love of self? It would seem to me that that would deplete negative polarization. Could you expand on the concept? IMRA. We may not use examples of known beings due to the infringement this would cause. Thus we must be general. The negatively oriented being will be one who feels that it has found power that gives meaning to its existence precisely as the positive polarization does feel. This negative entity will strive to offer these understandings to other selves, most usually by the process of forming the elite, the disciples, and teaching the need and rightness of the enslavement of other selves for their own good. These other selves are conceived to be dependent upon the self and in need of the guidance and the wisdom of the self. Questioner: thank you. How does the ability to hold visual images in mind allow the adept to do polarization in consciousness without external action? IMRA. This is not a simple query, for the adept is one which will go beyond the green ray which signals entry into harvestability. The adept will not simply be tapping into intelligent energy as a means of readiness for harvest, but tapping into both intelligent energy and intelligent infinity for the purpose of transmuting planetary harvestability and consciousness. The means of this working lie within. The key is first, silence, and secondly, singleness of thought. Thusly a visualization which can be held steady to the inward eye for several of your minutes, as you measure time, will signal the adept's increase in singleness of thought. This singleness of thought then can be used by the positive adept to work in group ritual visualizations for the raising of positive energy, by negative adepts for the increase in personal power. Questioner: Can you tell me what the adept, after being able to hold the image for several minutes, does to affect planetary consciousness or affect positive polarity? IMRA. When the positive adept touches intelligent infinity from within, this is the most powerful of connections, for it is the connection of the whole mind/body/spirit complex microcosm with the macrocosm. This connection enables the, shall we say, green ray true color in time/space to manifest in your space/time. In green ray, thoughts are beings. In your illusion, this is normally not so. The adepts then become living channels for love and light and are able to channel this radiance directly into the planetary web of energy nexi. The Law of One, Book 2, Session 50. 123. Ritual will always end by the grounding of this energy in praise and thanksgiving and the release of this energy into the planetary whole. Questioner, could you give me more information on the energy fields of the body as related to the right and left brain, and if this is somehow related to the pyramid shape as far as energy focusing goes? I am at a loss as to how to get into this line of questioning, so I will ask that question. IMRA. We are similarly at a loss at this line of answering. We may say that the pyramid shape is but one which focuses the in-streamings of energy for use by entities which may become aware of these in-streamings. We may say further that the shape of your physical brain is not significant as a shape for concentrating in-streamings of energy. Please ask more specifically, if you may, that which you seek. Questioner, each of us feels, in meditation, energy upon the head in various places. Could you tell me what this is, what it signifies, and what the various places in which we feel it signify? IMRA for getting the pyramid will be of aid to you in the study of these experiences. The in-streamings of energy are felt by the energy centers which need, and are prepared for, activation. Thus those who feel the stimulation at violet ray level are getting just that. Those feeling it within the forehead between the brows are experiencing indigo ray, and so forth. Those experiencing tingling and visual images are having some blockage in the energy center being activated, and thus the electrical body spreads this energy out and its effect is diffused. Those not truly sincerely requesting this energy may yet feel it if the entities are not well trained in psychic defense. Those not desirous of experiencing these sensations and activations and changes even upon the subconscious level will not experience anything due to their abilities at defense and armoring against change. Questioner, is it normal to get two simultaneous stimulations at once? IMRA. The most normal for the adept is the following: the indigo stimulation activating that great gateway into healing, magical work, prayerful attention, and the radiance of being, and the stimulation of the violet ray, which is the spiritual giving and taking from and to creator, from creator to creator. This is a desirable configuration. Please ask one more full query at this working. The Law of One, Book 2, Session 50. 124. Questioner, can you expand on the concept, which is that it is necessary for an entity, during incarnation in the physical as we know it, to become polarized or interact properly with other entities, and why this isn't possible in between incarnations when the entity is aware of what he wants to do? Why must he come into an incarnation and lose conscious memory of what he wants to do and then act in a way in which he hopes to act? IMRA. Let us give the example of the man who sees all the poker hands. He then knows the game. It is but child's play to gamble, for it is no risk. The other hands are known. The possibilities are known, and the hand will be played correctly, but with no interest. In time/space and in the true color green density, the hands of all are open to the eye. The thoughts, the feelings, the troubles, all these may be seen. There is no deception and no desire for deception. Thus much may be accomplished in harmony, but the mind/body/spirit gains little polarity from this interaction. Let us re-examine this metaphor and multiply it into the longest poker game you can imagine, a lifetime. The cards are love, dislike, limitation, unhappiness, pleasure, etc. They are dealt and redealt continuously. You may, during this incarnation begin, and we stress begin, to know your own cards. You may begin to find the love within you. You may begin to balance your pleasure, your limitations, etc. However, your only indication of other selves' cards is to look into the eyes. You cannot remember your hand, their hands, perhaps even the rules of this game. This game can only be won by those who lose their cards in the melting influence of love, can only be won by those who lay their pleasures, their limitations, they're all upon the table face up and say inwardly, all of you players, each other's self, whatever your hand, I love you. This is the game, to know, to accept, to forgive, to balance, and to open the self in love. This cannot be done without the forgetting, for it would carry no weight in the life of the mind/body/spirit beingness totality. Is there a brief query before we leave this instrument? Questioner, is there anything that we can do to make the instrument more comfortable or to improve the contact? IMRA. You are conscientious and your alignments are careful. It would be well to take care that this instrument's neck is placed carefully upon its support. The Law of One, Book 2, Session 50. 125. IMRA. I leave you, my friends, in the love and the light of the one infinite Creator. Go forth, then, rejoicing in the power and in the peace of the one infinite Creator. Adonai.